Hello and welcome to everybody. Today, let us discuss about the role of communication in social change. First, let us understand what social change is. Anything that is made different from its original form, such as a place, an object, or a situation, can be called as change. Social change is used to signify any changes that takes place with the interactions or interrelations of humans. When talking about social change, we can think of the way to interact with each other, the way we do certain things, and the way we organize ourselves. Communication for social change. Communication, when used correctly, can contribute to social change and transformation within a community or society. Communication as agents for social change. In a paper presented by Wachuku Prince Olulube in Nigeria, he taught that the use of communication is to convey a meaning, to create an understanding. I quote Olulube. This process requires a vast range of skills in intrapersonal and interpersonal processing. Use of these processes is developmental and transfers to all areas of life: governance, e-commerce, home, school, community, and work. Effective communication is a window to basic literacy and academic excellence. It is through communication that partnerships and cooperation occur in every sector of the national economy. The use of communication devices such as the mobile phone, smartwatch, tablets, even laptops, email services, and every electronic readers are all part of social change. Depending on the age of the audience today, some of remember a time where the laptop was not yet invented, or email services was not there. We can still imagine the absence of technology, how difficult was it to bring about quite a lot of communication process, which would have resulted in the concept of social change. Today, these have become a part of our livelihood. Using all these modern technologies are a part of social change. Participatory and horizontal communication. Participatory communication is likened to participatory development. Participatory communication adopts the processes and interventions that stimulate dialogue and collaboration. Participatory communication is synonymous to concepts of empowerment and expression of speech. Participatory communication challenges power relations and promotes social change from the bottom up. You should know the hierarchy from bottom to the top, how social change occurs. Let us look at an example. In a research paper written by Guy Bessette, we learn that the International Development Research Center developed a program in Africa to support people's participation in their development. They facilitated this by gathering groups and communities to share the problems that they face. In these groups, people must make well-informed decisions and mobilize for action. Ultimately, they must be responsible for their own development and social change. From this, we learned that participatory communication is a two-way communication process that involves the following. It separates itself from one-way communication. It is solely two-way dialogue. It encourages debate and problem resolution. Participatory communication is not a campaigning tool and is not used to turn people to believe in their ideology. These approaches combines diffusion and participatory. Participatory communication uses multiple ways to communicate with the society for social change. For example, group education workshops with mass media campaigns will go hand in hand to bring about education for social change. This use of media is an effective form of communication for social change. When a participatory communication session takes place, it must have the participation of communities. It must have the participation of communities and its citizens. Carl Vaughan and Cialho asked the following. It's a very simple question. On what basis do people enter such spaces? What legitimacy do they have to speak for others? Are these marginalized groups involved or represented? How can broader based representation be achieved? When citizens are engaged in participatory communication, the right bodies must be present to be aware of the discussions, so that they have a sense that people are listening to them and social change is happening. What is this participatory media? What do you understand by participatory media? Participatory media allows citizens to produce and distribute their own content according to their own needs. This means that the community is responsible for the creation of the messages and the dissemination of the message. Communities then choose the topics that are pertinent to their community, especially topics that bring about social change. Through this process, communities develop a variety of media skills and eventually find ways to solve their own problems. In many countries around the world, this has proved to be a very successful process, and this has led to community building, social cohesion and social change. This concept has worked exceptionally well among the women of Fiji and Nepal. There are quite a lot of experiments that has happened. Throughout time, various communication projects were created to help change the attitudes and behaviors of people, especially in the health sector and agriculture and industry. Government and non-governmental organizations would use both mainstream and local media such as television, radio, theatre, booklets, pamphlets and information sessions in the forms of plays and street art to share the messages that could lead to social development and social change. Community radio has also been one of the most important tools in the communication process to help bring about social change. Especially for women, radio has been the number of source of information as it breaks the barrier of illiteracy and the language. Now, having understood the role of communication in social change, let us explain the diffusion of innovation theory. What is this diffusion of innovation theory? Everett Rogers, a renowned professor in communication studies, famously known for popularizing the diffusion of innovation theory and the author of Diffusion of Innovations, taught that diffusion is the process in which innovation is communicated through different platforms or networks over a period of time to people in a social system. The type of communication is different. The type of communication is different because it shares new ideas or concepts. Quoting Rogers and Kincaid in 1981, Rogers states that communication is a process where participants create and share information with each other so that they can reach a mutual understanding. He explains that communications then becomes a process of convergence or divergence as people exchange information with each other. Rogers explains that the diffusion is a type of social change, stating that when new ideas are invented, then shared and either rejected or adopted, depending on the consequences, social change takes place. For example, change can happen when a group of people call others to action to ensure that social ills are eradicated in society. As public pressure or awareness online takes places, more people will be able to better understand social ills that were once not even spoken about. The key elements in the diffusion of innovation theory are innovation, adopters, communication channels, time and social system. The innovation can be labeled as any idea that was birthed originally by a person or organization. The diffusion of innovation theory teaches that the adopters can be divided into 5 different categories: innovators, second one is early adopters, third one is early majority, fourth one is late majority, and the fifth one is laggards. Innovators are the creators, often the first ones with the ideas and first ones willing to share the information of social change and others. These are the risk takers and have a high financial status. Adopters can be individuals, business or organizations. The early adopters are the ones who embrace social change first and without any reservations. They have the highest degree of opinions in society. The late adopters are the ones who will adopt after some time. By then, they have formed an opinion from other adopters. The late majority adopt social change after much skepticism. They accept change and do it long after others have embraced change. The laggards are the last to accept social change. These groups of people show very little to no opinion leadership. They are focused on traditions and have the lowest social status. They are only the contact with family and close friends. The communication channels are the processes in which people converse or message each other. The message is clear and direct, and the feedback given will determine the understanding of the concept. This will determine the diffusion of thoughts and ideas. There is no fixed time for diffusion of innovation to take place. For early adopters, it could take a second or a day, while for late adopters, it could take 10 years. The social system is a combination of the influencers such as mass media or social media influencers. The diffusion of innovation theory teaches that not all individuals have the same amount of influence over others. While opinion leaders are influential, they can spread both negative and positive information about innovation or change. In Katz and Lazarsfield's personal influence, the part played by people in the flow of mass communications, the two-way step flow of communication theory is taught in detail. Opinion leaders have the most important influence on the evaluation, state of the spreading of the message or the decision. Opinion leaders have a great access to the mass media, and citizens prefer to hear first-hand experience from social media influencers rather than that mainstream media. Opinion leaders are often the ones who have a greater socio-economic status in society than others. In the IRG solution, hierarchical incompetence and how to overcome it by David Andrews, we can learn that before the start of the internet, social networks had an imperative role to play in transferring messages that can be difficult to write down or explain. The theory of diffusion of innovation dates back many years, is still used today to study the spread of new ideas and opinions. In a study conducted by Professor Tom Valente, diffusion of innovations within social networks, we learn how social networks influence the behavior of a person. Valente's work shows the importance of social networks and the influence it has on behavioral changes. His research shows that people can be easily influenced by social media. He states, this accumulated body of evidence indicates that social networks can be leveraged to accelerate behavioral change, improve organizational efficiency, enhance social change, and improve dissemination and diffusion of innovations. Network segmentation with each group represented by a distinct color. For induction, each group has a leader and that leader influences the other group members. Node can directly influence these immediately connected to him or her. The large arrow from 28 to 35 signifies a stronger tie, and evidence suggests that strong ties are stronger influences on individual behavior than weak ties when the behavior is important. Indirect influence will be required to reach those not directly connected to a leader. Different colors represented mutually exclusive groups. This is what Valente said in 2018. Now, let us look into how does the diffusion of innovation theory aid the role of communication towards social change. Let us talk about that for a while. A social process will spread through the community or society. According to the various adopters and their respective groups, they will accept social change. Social change is not necessarily westernization or modernization. It is more of creating a more sustainable future for a people of a community, sustainable future for the people of a community. As Rogers taught, in the process of diffusion, we must remember that communication is significant in social change. Look his 5 steps of the diffusion process. We can liken it to communication too. For example, first one is communication must provide knowledge and awareness of social change. Second one is communication must persuade the people so that they can research social change. Third one is communication must help people make decisions about social change. Fourth one is communication must help people implement social change. And the fifth one is communication must create an opportunity for people to continue to embrace social change. So, here my dear friends, the role of media in bringing about social change, it is not the function of the media just to inform or just to tell everything to the people. It is also the responsibility of the media to see to it, it influences the thinking behavior of an individual, which will result in social change. Thank you.